So, we've just finished recapping some of the negative consequences of the modernization of agriculture. And there's another topic related to these consequences that we need to pull out and look at in a bit more detail, and that is persistent organic pollutants. Persistent organic pollutants are not a problem that is exclusively caused by agriculture by any means, but agriculture has been a huge contributor to this problem, and you'll see why that's the case as we get into it. So, persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, are organic chemicals that are produced and released into the environment by human activity and pose risks to the health of ecosystems and people. There are many different types of pollutants out there, but what makes POPs unique is that they are, first of all, persistent. So, this means they are chemicals that last a long time in the environment without breaking down. It can take decades for them to be naturally broken down. They are also bioaccumulative, and this means that they accumulate or build up to higher and higher levels in bodily tissues over time and as you move up the food chain. And lastly, POPs are toxic. They're known to affect the health of both humans and animals and a wide range of body systems from the nervous system to the reproductive system, the immune system. They are carcinogens, cancer causing agents. So, what does all of this have to do with agriculture? Well, most POPs are pesticides, specifically insecticides, that were formerly used widely in agriculture. Here are 12 of the most toxic and problematic POPs as identified by a United Nations Convention on POPs. And as you can see, over half of them are insecticides. Today in the United States, these POPs are all banned. But of course, the thing we know about POPs is that they persist. So even though they haven't been in use for many years, they're still around in soil and in water supplies. And from these soil and water reservoirs where the POPs persist, they can bioaccumulate and biomagnify, which means that primary consumers in the ecosystem will still get direct exposure to that POP. So, like the mayflies on the left hand side of this illustration here. And then hundreds of those mayflies will be eaten by an organism up the food chain, like the bluegill to the right of them. So the bluegill's exposure to this POP is magnified compared to the mayfly because it eats so many mayflies. And then at the next step of the food chain, the bass eats a large amount of bluegill. And so its exposure level is even greater. And then whatever's at the top of the food chain, which is often humans, gets the highest, most magnified level of exposure to the pollutants that have become more concentrated at each step of this food chain. So, yes, these POPs are banned in the US from use now, but they are still lingering in soil and water from when they had their heyday as insecticides during the height of the Green Revolution, and we still get passive exposure to them through bioaccumulation. Furthermore, although these POPs are banned in the US, there are still countries in the world, mostly developing countries, where they are not banned and they're still being used. So, for example, DDT, which is one of the most notorious POPs, is still used in sub Saharan Africa for mosquito control because malaria, which is carried by mosquitoes, is such a significant public health crisis there. And DDT is used in a strategy called indoor residual spraying, where the indoor walls and ceilings of a home are sprayed with DDT to kill any mosquitoes that might land on those surfaces inside the home. So POPs are not completely gone from the world. And there are many other POPs that are not on this list of banned ones that continue to be used in the US, unfortunately. So, bisphenol A, or BPA, is one of them. You may have heard of BPA. It's a plasticizing agent that is included in many plastic products that makes them more pliable. The FDA stance used to be that BPA was safe, and then it became apparent that it was developmentally harmful to children, so it was banned from use in baby bottles and sippy cups in 2012. But otherwise, it's still permitted to be used in plastic products. And consequently, 90% of Americans walk around with BPA in their body due to their exposure to it. Another example is phthalates. These are also a plasticizing agent that cause reproductive dysfunction and developmental harms. In 2017, there was a law passed that restricted, but did not ban, the concentration of phthalates that can be used in children's toys, but their use is otherwise still permitted. And as a result, blood test surveillance shows that 99% of Americans have phthalates in their bodies. So the bottom line is that US based agriculture may have come a long way at eliminating the use of certain POPs, but POPs are still all around us in the form of environmental pollutants that are residual from the time when they were allowed, and in the form of POPs that are found in products that have not yet been banned.